It's officially been 1 year since I took my Shahada, and I feel like this would be a good time to share my story. I know a lot of y'all have been curious, and I appreciate your patience. I just wanted to get my thoughts together and make sure I'm doing justice to what I'm going to share. One of the reasons I didn't know how to talk about this was because now looking back, I see that I had been guided for a long time and even longer than I realized because I thought it was a 2 to 3 year process that I've been on. But looking back, I see now in hindsight that there were signs and guidance maybe 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, I had this kind of vision and I was veiled in it. And at that time, that made zero sense to me. So I just shrugged it off. For context, I was born in Sri Lanka and my family is Buddhist and we are Sinhalese Sri Lankans. And we generally tend to be Buddhists. After moving to the States, we did spend a lot of time at the temple. So Sunday school, that's where a lot of the Sri Lankan Sinhalese community would gather. So not only was it a place to study Buddhism, but it was also a place for Sri Lankans to gather and be in community. I never felt that Buddhism didn't fit me or that it didn't align with my values at that time. How I see it is that Buddhism was the foundation that allowed me to go on this journey and allow me to be open-minded, and it allowed me to ask the questions. And I do feel grateful that I have those foundations to allow me to be guided, if that makes sense. So fast forward, I'm in college. I am not attending the temple as much, but I become more spiritual and, of course, start believing that there is a higher power, like I guess at the time I would call it the universe. And that was different from my Buddhist upbringing because in Buddhism, we don't have a living source. We don't have a spiritual text. I know someone's going to disagree with that. I didn't grow up with a spiritual text, is what I will say. I did have many moments where I would have signs from what I would call the universe at that time. It was consistent enough for me to be pretty certain that there's something bigger than what I understand. I'm going to fast forward quite a bit because there's a lot that happened within the last 10 years, and I want to try and keep this as brief and concise as possible. And so I will fast forward to a couple years after college. I started a business, and I think starting my business forced me to become more disciplined. And during this time, I realized that I cannot engage in social settings in the same way because I worked weekends. I couldn't drink and go out in the way that my peers were doing so because, and not to air anything, but I want to share my true experience just so that others that are on this path can also relate. Okay. Just logistically, I couldn't be hungover. I didn't have money to spend on alcohol. I did notice this cyclical pattern of people going out, working, going out, drinking, going out as many nights as possible. And I saw that happening quite frequently and for other people. And I realized, like, oh, these patterns people are in, it's like people are just trying to numb their reality and what I know now as the dunya, right? Which makes total sense. That was just one component. And then there were other things that didn't quite make sense. Like I was starting to be more interested in modest wear, which out of the blue, okay, it just kind of came out of nowhere. Um, I didn't think much about it. I just thought, okay, my style is changing a little bit. There were like conversations I just didn't want to engage in, and just again, lifestyles I didn't want to co-sign on. Okay. And I just felt like this didn't fit my values. Again, I didn't know it was Islam, but I just knew what aligned with me and what didn't align with me.
My beloved brothers and sisters, following Islam properly means living by the guidance Allah has given in the Quran and through the teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It requires sincerity, discipline, and consistency. When you practice Islam with dedication, your life becomes organized, your heart is at peace, and you gain Allah's blessings in both this world and the next. Discipline in prayer, honesty in speech, and purity in actions show that Islam is a way of life, not just a set of rituals. When you are disciplined, people around you notice. They see how Islam shapes you into a better person, truthful, trustworthy, kind, and patient. This naturally calls people to Allah without you even having to say much. Your good conduct becomes a silent form of da'wah that inspires others. Non Muslims often respect those who live by their values with consistency and dignity, and this can open their hearts to learning about Islam. Calling people to Allah should always be done with wisdom and kindness. The Quran tells us to invite others in the best way, using gentle words and showing compassion. When people see the beauty of Islam in your actions and hear its truth in your words, they may become curious and interested. Many people have accepted Islam simply because they saw a Muslim live with integrity, patience, and mercy. Remember, da'wah is not only about preaching, it's about showing. If you follow Islam properly, keep your discipline, and carry yourself with good manners, you are already inviting people to Allah. Your character can be the bridge that helps someone discover the truth of Islam and find their way to Allah's mercy.